the question, does Jesus have anything to do with the melanated, woolly-haired black people? Does his teachings exclude them? The answer to that is, which Jesus are we talking about? Because in the religious world, this is what they do. They've made out to people as if there's only one Jesus, and they've made him European. So you have to find out why is that. And that shows you that whoever is giving you that image, right, is in control or is the author of that image. So even in the book itself, there are 3 different Jesuses that are put into one story. And when you look at the image, you're looking at the image of Zeus, right? Because the book that you're referring to, the Bible or the New Testament, it's a book that really comes from the Romans and the Greeks, all right? I'm going to just interrupt that. I will carry on, but let's take the live call. Rahubat, greetings. Could you say your name?
Greetings and Rahubat Siken. My name's Kojo from London.
Hey, Rahubat, Kojo. Go ahead. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
Doing my best.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've got one question to kick things off.
Yeah.
Is it true that Caucasians or white Europeans, they share their DNA with dogs, or what we might call canines?
Sure. Yes, that's the simple answer. But the thing is, when we say Europeans or white people, there's a differentiation. We have to always be very clear that not all white people come from the same lineage or genetics. So if you read like the 33 commandments, right, it tells you that there was a graftation of the Adamites. And even before that, there's what people are calling white people that came from like the Flugerods, okay, which goes back to like 8,400 years ago, the Yakub story. We literally just dropped a video explaining that whole story about how, you know, Yakub grafted the beings that are known as the Flugerods. Now, when you say white people, there is no such thing as white people, as there is no such thing as black people, because that was something that was put together, and that kind of ties into the competition and the race wars, right? So when you use words like Caucasian, you're talking about a specific group of beings that came out of the Caucasus Mountains, which will tie into the Flugerods, and then later on, the Canaanites that you read about in the Bible, because Canaan or Canaan was a son of Ham, because it says, cursed be Canaan. And he was a Negroid, but he was an albino, right? And from the albino, he got the curse of leprosy. And that's how you get those Canaanites. And there were other children, when you look at the 11 sons of Canaan, they were different, like you got the Archites, Girgashites, the Amorites, the Jebusites, and so on. These are all part of those children. Then you have what we refer to as the Adamites, which are the graftation by way of the Pleiadians, who came from Pleiades. And what they did was take that which was already here and grafted what you're calling the Adamites today. So when people are reading the Bible and it talks about the first man being Adam, you look at the description, it talks about him being ruddy red, rosy red. This is where you get the word Adam. That word Adam is really in the Hebrew Adamah, which is off the ground. But it's talking about when this graftation was taking place. And then you also have the word Edom that comes from that word, which is red, which deals with the Edomites. But it's also dealing with the word red, because as I said, the Pleiadians that were grafting these beings, they said in the Bible in Genesis, let us make man in our image and our likeness. And so they are blonde-haired, blue-eyed beings, the original Nordics, who were the, that come from that descendancy. So when they were, those beings were in the reason Canaan had to move into the mountains is because as an albino, he lacked melanin. And when you don't have much melanin, the sun is, is very damaging to you because you can get leproma, which is the scientific name for it, or in the health world, they will say Hansen's disease. When you look at Hansen's, you're literally hearing the word Ham's sons, and Ham's son was Canaan or Canaan. So he had to move up into the mountains to be in a cooler climate where it's more conducive for his because of his melanin, the lack of his melanin. But because of the curse of leprosy, it means that they will get skin cancer when they're in the sun. So that most European countries are in a cooler climate than away from the equator. So when they were in the caves, this is when, the bestiality was taking place, and with that gravitation, you get the genetics of the Homo canine, the Homo porcine, and what's the other one? And the simian, right? This is where people that don't know, when they're trying to find out where we all come from, they will say, oh, we came from monkeys, or we came from this. But that's because when you look at the genetics of them, it's dealing with their genes they're the ones that are referred to as the Neanderthal, and also referred to as the Cro-Magnon. That's strange. So I'm saying that to say there are lots of different origins of what people are calling white people today. All right, and we have to be very clear on the differences between them. And when I said there's no such thing as a white person, is because when you ask what makes a white person white, this ties into the Hitler trying to graft a supreme being, and he was trying to make these beings in the image and likeness of the gods that appeared to him, who were these Pleiadians. And they were the ones that gave him certain technology, and he went about trying to graft or create the Aryan race, and blonde hair, blue eyes. This is what I'm saying. These were the original Nordics that came out of that graftation. So, but if you know about Hitler, he was from Austria. He had brown hair. He didn't look like what he was calling, a supreme race. And that's because these gods, they gave him a lot of technology, and he was in the Antarctica. He had crafts. That ties into, that whole story. So, yeah, so the Adamites, they were given, in the Bible, they were given 6,000 years to have dominion over the earth and to name everything. And that's what has happened up until the year 2000, when that time has expired. And so those particular Adamites are the ones that are being removed from the planet by way of just natural extinction, because their telomeres were programmed with only, after 6,000 years to fade away. And you can find that at the tips of the chromosomes, all right? So I hope that's answered that question. All right. Okay, so I was trying to finish off that question. So there's different types of Jesuses in the Bible. There's the Yeshua, and there's the one that is the son of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, known as Bar Jesus. And there's the one between Mark Antony and Cleopatra that is known as Cleophas. Those three people's story, according to the books, according to the Bible. But to answer your question about was he black or was he white, those stories are actually fabricated and have been passed on over. But the original story goes back to ancient Egypt, the person they're really talking about, who is Haru, or Heru, as some people pronounce him. So, all right, we've got another call, so let me just interrupt and take that. Greetings, Rahubat.
Rahubat again.
Yeah, Rahubat.
Yeah, this is Terry Jamal.
Hey, Terry.
Yes. Yeah, so there's just one question I wanted to ask regarding. I think I attended one of the classes I attended.
Okay.
You mentioned in terms of connecting with our ancestors, like from the mother's side, your great grandmother, it's easier to connect to her using her names. So in cases where you don't know the names, are there any ways you can connect? Because I've been trying to look for the names. And how best can you connect in terms of the connection in case you don't have the names and yeah.
Right. So
Okay, thank you.
thank you for the question. So we've been taught by the master teacher, Parna Babyan, and Dr. Malachi Z. York, for whom without none of this would be possible, that the reason you connect to your, it's really your mother and then to your grandma on the mother's side or your female side, because they carry the mitochondrial DNA and the link is going to be stronger. However, if you don't have information or like don't know who your mother is or whatever, you can go to the next person who like would be your grandmother, and you know you can keep going to your great grandmother. So as long as it's not that you can't connect to your father's side as well, it's really all your ancestors. However, it's just that it's stronger on your mother's side. So that's how you can do it. But the thing is that you should be able to find out generally like your family tree and put it together anyway, so you know who, at least going back 4 generations. So you know we have the diagram on our online course and in the book and in the scrolls that shows you, you know, the 4 generations of your ancestors. Yeah, so what you need to be able to do is get that, blow it up and try and fill in the names of the people, right? And then you will know who they are in your genetics, so that when you feel a certain way or get certain communications, you can try and fill in the gaps and identify based on, like, say you put your grandma there and you go and ask, you know, people that knew her, speak to them and get as much information about her as possible, what she did when she was here, you know, what did she like to eat. Just find out as much information about everyone in your family tree. Then when you get certain thoughts or get certain urges to do certain things, you may be able to identify, oh, that's from, you know, great grandma or uncle this or uncle that. You can start to build that picture. All right. Yeah. So that's how you would do it. So you can connect with any of your ancestors, but your mother is the strongest link because she gave birth to you. She holds the mitochondrial DNA. All right. Okay. So yeah, so to finish off that question, Shelton, because I've got many questions to get to as well, that story is concocted, the books are plagiarized, the New Testament are stories that were put together by the Josephus Flavius family, yeah, Josephus Flavius Piso, Piso. They are the ones who rewrote the New Testament. It was a play. So if you go back to where the origins of the stories come from, most of the monotheistic religion have their roots in ancient Egypt. So that story of Osiris, Seth, and Haru or Horus, as they say in the Greek, that's the story that has been copied over to the Bible in terms of the God, Mary, and Jesus. However, that same story can be found in ancient Sumer as well, in the Sumerian doctrine, which becomes Damuzi, Tammuz, and Ishtar. All right, so the Bible are really Sumerian stories that have been remixed, and those Sumerian stories have taken parts from ancient Egypt. Okay, we got another caller. Oh, okay. This is new. Hey. Rahul back. How you doing? Oh, I love this. Look, video call. First video call, so you get a star.
Yeah. You see, I got one.
Yeah. How you doing?
Doing good.
Yeah.
I was trying to see, like the food diet, so I won't get put on the menu. I want to eat the right food and stuff. Like
Yeah.
what kind of diet I can get.
Okay. All right, because he's on video. Okay. Yeah. Is that it? Okay, he's gone. Yeah, the diet. The thing with the diet, the master teacher said that he's not going to write a specific book for us on diet, but he has put out books like what's that book called? Purity and Neatness, that's the one. Yeah, Purity and Neatness, which goes into a lot of what he recommends for us to eat. In addition to that, he's given us updates. And so he said, even if you read the Mind Book and Your Potential, he says that a vegetarian diet is better than one where you're eating or consuming flesh or any animals that have parents or anything that has parents. All right, so that's kind of the basics where you start from. But with a vegetarian diet, the problem is the dairy products, your cheese and so forth, because cheese produces a lot of mucus. So you have to eliminate the mucus. Even Dr. Sebi, who was a Sabian, a Nuwapian, he said that get rid of mucus, because mucus is one of the biggest problems. So the best diet would be a vegan diet, and that will basically not contain any dairy, fruit and veg. He recommends that brothers, males, eat mostly red things, so like beetroot, tomatoes, but there are different types of tomatoes, you know, so you have to be careful. Even mushrooms, like reishi mushroom, shiitake mushrooms. Yeah, just try and eat a lot of veg, a lot of healthy, you know, fruits, pulses, nuts. So you really, a vegan diet is the best diet, but secondary to that is a vegetarian one. But ultimately you should avoid eating anything that has blood, that has parents. And so people will say, but plants have parents. And the answer to that is a plant and a fruit was designed for you to eat. It was actually what, even when you read the word meat in the Bible, for it's meat for you to eat. If you research that, it's talking about fruits and veg. It's not talking about meat. So because when you eat animals, animals take longer to digest through your system. Your digestive system is not designed for meat. You didn't have canine teeth. And today they're putting a lot of chemicals and all kinds of pesticides in the animals to grow them. People say if you don't eat meat or flesh that you're gonna lack protein. That's not true, because the protein that you get from the meat is the protein that the animals have got from eating veg and grass and, you know, so forth. And the biggest mammals, like your elephants and so forth, they are vegetarian. So you can still amass muscle is what I'm saying, because people say if they don't eat meat, they can't get protein, therefore they're not going to be able to amass muscle. Yeah, so that's the answer to that. Eat a wholesome vegan diet. And then if you have to work your way to it, you can cut out meat like the red meat. The reason you don't eat animals is because animals, they have life, they have spirits, they retain memories, the traumas, especially when they are, you know, when they're unalived in that particular way. So they can retain those memories that you then take into you and the blood, and then it affects your DNA. And when you go to sleep, sometimes you may have nightmares and dreams, and those are directly related to the fact that you've ingested those animals that had those memories, you see. So there are many reasons why not to eat flesh or bloody meat. All right, yeah, so let's move on. So the next question is, greetings. From Wu-Sabat's perspective, what are we looking forward to since the Bible is not telling the truth? What scroll should I read about this? Right, so first thing you're looking forward to is your freedom, because you're actually enslaved by way of your mind. You're in mental slavery when you're thinking and believing things that are lies. So you have to, it says, you shall know the truth and the truth shall make you free. So by knowing the truth, you free yourself of the bondage of the spell that has been put on you, which is the spell of ignorance of who you are and the hate of yourself, because you don't see yourself in the books. The stories are not about you. The images are not you. And it's all telling you about a fictitious place that you're going to go to that no one has proven. That's both hell and heaven. So it's about knowing the truth and living based on facts, evidence, and experience. And then from that, you say, what should you look forward to? What you're looking forward to is developing your being, the real you, to be the supreme being that you're supposed to be, and to learn more about the other realms and your other counterparts, so that when you shed your physical body, as in the skin suit, and you've raised and developed your spiritual being and your other counterparts, like your etheric being, you will be able to then connect with your ancestors and, you know, your other higher being, because you have an oversoul that you connect to as well. And you'll be able to move on to higher realms and continue existing and having a different type of experience like the one you're having here. And so you say, what book should you read? We have, by way of Pana Babyanun, the master teacher, over 1,000 books that literally cover everything. These are just a few of them. You can see how thick and big some of these books are. So the book that I think somebody else quoted, The Bridge to Salvation, is an excellent book, because this is what real salvation is, and you will know where you're going and how to prepare for where you get there, for when you get there, and what to do when you get there. You know, so that's the answer to that. So there are lots of scrolls. When we do these lives, obviously, due to time constraints, and we're getting calls continuously, I can only touch on subjects. This is why we ask people to attend classes, to log on to the Telegram, official Telegram group, which is posted in the chat. That's OSM Wu-Sabat, Ask Us Anything Telegram group. And we can carry on with the conversations, and we answer questions continuously, live, you know. So it doesn't have to always wait till the Tuesday when we do this live. Okay, let's carry on. I'm very interested in learning more about where we come from. Am I to understand that many of us live in shells of body and that we are light beings in natural form? Yeah, I mean, that question of where we come from, you kind of have to start from where you are now and work backwards, all right? So the immediate answer will be, where did you come from? Well, you came from your mother. She gave birth to you. She's the goddess that grew you in her womb, all right? So that's the first place where you come from. Obviously, the father is involved, because it takes both partners to produce a child and to give it its, you know, its sex, in terms of, is it male or female, XX or XY chromosomes, right? So that's the first step. But I know what people will say when you say that. They always say, well, where does my mum come from? Or my mother. So you say, well, she comes from her parents. And this can keep going on and on and on and on and on and on and on, to the point where, and I'm talking about, millions and millions and millions of years. And so then when we get to that point, the next question is, well, where do those beings come from? And we will go back to, okay, we came from water onto land, okay? And so as beings in the water, we used to breathe in the water, right? Because remember, whatever you are today is a product of what you come from. And this is why we still have things like tonsils, and we still have, you know, like appendix. People are like, what are they for? Sometimes they don't know. And gills, because you used to breathe underwater. And so when we were in the waters, you say who was in the water and who came out of the waters first. And you go back in time to the most ancient civilizations, which is going to end up in Egypt, which will give you the best story of creation as beings coming out of the water onto land, you know, and then these are the beings referred to as the Ogdoads, all right? And then from them came the 9 Enneads. And then they obviously through, you know about the stories of Egypt and so on and so on. But then you say, well, how did they get to come out of the water? Then we go back to the beings that were here before humanoid came out of the waters. And that goes to when we were sirens in the waters, you had dolphins, you had big whales, you had a lot of beings that were here in the waters before the land. And those dolphins will be our ancestors because our creators, or the Natharu, who seeded this planet with their genetics, the genes, by way of the dolphin, they come from outside of the planet. You know, they were, for what we know today, a lot of us tie into Orion and to Sirius, and you had Sirius A, B, and C. So they actually germinated their DNA or their genes by way of the dolphins onto this planet. So we go then tie back into them, you see. So depending on how far back you go, will answer the question of where you came from. And so when you say, yeah, this is the physical you is the shell, but it contains your spirit, contains your soul, and those, the etheric you is where you're trying to get back to, because you have 9 levels or 9 realms, and the highest one is 9, which vibrates really high in terms of high frequency and high vibration. The lowest one is where we are now, the physical realm or the material plane. So once you shed this body, you're working your way back up to becoming an Etherian. And an Etherian is a pure energy being where we are all kind of heading back to become a part of what we call the all, or the all expanding, or Pa'ut in our language, you see. So the journey can go from how you came here by way of you being a pure energy being, which when your father was ejaculating, the sperm had to travel up the spinal column, or the energy, shall I say, to get ignited and then activated, and then that energy comes back down, and that gets inserted into the ovum of your mother, where that energy then grows, and she looks after you, she feeds you through the umbilical cord, and then you get your skin suit by way of the dust that she breathes in. And this is why pregnant women have a lot of problems with sinuses, with this, they have sinus problems, etc. But it's that dust that then forms that being, that pure etheric being that grows, and then you come out to be a physical being. All right, we've got another call, so let me just stop there and take this. Rahubat, greetings. What's your name and where you calling from? And what's the question?
Greetings. My name is Marius Joseph. I'm calling from St. Lucia, all the way from the Caribbean.
Greetings. Yes, what's your question?
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you now.
Yeah. Sorry, I said go ahead, and what's your question? Welcome.
Okay, welcome. I just discovered you a couple of weeks ago, and I'm grateful for that. The universe just sent you into my way. But my question is, I have some knowledge of Kabbalah. I've been studying Kabbalah for some time now, and briefly, Kabbalah kind of claims that they were the very first ones, originally, like all our religions came from, stemmed from Kabbalah, right?
Yeah.
So can you comment on that? Because I seem to recall you as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. Wu-Sabat, it's like, almost the same, not like Kabbalah, but it's like originally. So can you comment on Kabbalah compared to Wu-Sabat? Because from what I know about Kabbalah, as I said, they claim to be the original ones, and like everything came from, branched out from all religions and everything else. came from Kabbalah.
Okay.
So can you make some comparison, and talk to me about Wu-Sabat and Kabbalah? Because I really want to do your courses and so forth, and I've been following Kabbalah. Out of everything else on this earth, Kabbalah has been the only one that have really satisfied my questions and so forth. And the universe just sent Wu-Sabat, and you guys seem to be on par so far. You understand?
Yeah.
And so just talk to me about that. I would appreciate that. All right?
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, the Kabbalah is not the first, but then again, all the religions claim that theirs is the first and the only one and the correct one, and that's not true. The Kabbalah goes back to a lot of what they call the learned men in the Jewish faith, and it's mixed with, well, first of all, before I even get into that, when people claim that it's the first, you have to ask them, how is it the first? Where are the findings? Where are the people? Where do they get the information from? And as I said, even the youngest religion of all, which is Islam, they claim to be the first, and the Quran is the only book that hasn't been tampered with and it's untouched, and Muhammad is the last and final prophet, and the Quran is the only book for salvation, etc. Until you start to probe and ask questions and dig deep into, it doesn't make sense, because where's the original and how did it happen? And I'm just saying that to say that's 1400 years ago with the Quran. The New Testament, they claim the same thing. They say that the New Testament is the only way for salvation because this is where Jesus came and died for your sins, and he's the only way, he's the only way you get to the Father. And again, they claim if you don't follow this book and don't follow Jesus, then you're not going anywhere. Then you go back even further to the Old Testament, which Jesus in their writings in the New Testament says that you can't change the words. He says, is it not written in your laws that you are gods, referring to the books from before, meaning the Torah. And the Torah, again, this is where they tell you, Adam is the first man and everybody came from Adam, and this gods of the Bible, you have to do as he say, or else you're gonna get punished and burnt in a place called hell if you don't follow this book. And all of that is only going back to 6,000 years old. But when you start to go into writings, because even that, the Kabbalah, that's something that the son of Jesus that I mentioned before, known as Bar Jesus, he went to India and he was into the mystics and studying sorcery, and that's where you will find the origins of the Kabbalah. And you will find that a lot of the learned elders of Zion, as they call themselves, which goes back to, as I say, the elders, the Jewish elders, and you'll find certain celebrities that also studied the Kabbalah. So to answer your question, it is not the first. Some of the teachings will align just like every of the other teachings from these other religions, because when you have the truth, the origin, things are borrowed from there. So you will always have the root, and then you see people borrowing some parts from that truth. But ultimately, the oldest people on the planet are the Africans, and by way of the most ancient Africans, which will go to, as we say, the Natharu, or the ancient Egyptians, as they refer to them. So yeah, there's some truths in the Kabbalah, like there's some truths in the Quran, there's some truths in the Torah, and there's some truths in the New Testament, but those are just the bits that get you hooked in, and then they give you the rest of the lies, which is 90% lies most of the time. All right.
The super chat.
Okay.
First one, yeah, the green one.
That one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Sorry about that. Naduma, as we say in our language. Please talk about the overseers welcoming us to paradise. Touch on this, how this could happen. What scroll next? I've read the Bridge to Salvation. Yeah, I'm really, really sorry for kind of neglecting you on that. Yeah, the overseers, these are the elders of our Natharu, and and your ancestors who have made that grade. So the point is that you're constantly trying to elevate upwards, and it's important because when you're crossing over from this realm to the next realm, this is why we don't use words like dying, because energy cannot be destroyed. That's why you have to prepare to be born into that new world. And so your time here is really to be spent to strengthen yourself, because when you're crossing over, you have your ancestors waiting for you to receive you. Just like when you're being born here, you know, you have a few people in the hospital waiting to receive you. So it's the same process, but you're being born into the real world from this fake world as, you know, a newcomer in that world. And so they're waiting to receive you. However, people who haven't been, people who haven't prepared for that journey, for that time to cross over, can get tricked by other entities or other beings appearing to them and ushering them into that direction. So for example, if you've been a Christian all your life and you only believe like Jesus and you took on that image of the blonde hair, blue eye, then these are the entities, extraterrestrials, that can, you know, take form, and they can trick you because they will say, come this way. You will have your ancestors waiting to usher you and guide you, and you will have the other entities. And if you were into Islam or whatever, then you know, you might find the characters that, you know, you've been reading about, that you have images about, like, I don't know, say Muhammad or something. And at that point, you need to make a decision. And if you don't know, and if you believe the lies that you've been told, you're gonna go towards the wrong people, and that will bring you right back. It's like a wormhole where you go through and come back. And this is why a lot of people will tell you that they saw a white light when they get to that point, and some just come right back. So if you're like, how do you know this? Because there are people who have had near-death experiences, or where they are literally in a coma, but then their actual spiritual being is able to travel and go places and see things, but their physical skin suit is just laying down. And they may go to these gates and see these white lights and see beings, and some people say, oh, I met Jesus and so forth. But your real ancestors will be there to help you and guide you, and this is why you have to be prepared and know where to go to, right? And it says how it could happen. The way it happens is basically you preparing by way of Wu-Sabat. When you say what scroll next, I would read scrolls like the 24 elders, scrolls like the spiritual you after the physical you dies, soul, spirit, that's a Patarak, 30 spirits. We obviously, in our online course, we give you recommendations for many books as well. So if you would like to, know more books, and if you're in our Telegram group, we're always posting the books that relate to questions that people are asking. So make sure you join the Telegram group. So those are the scrolls. The Bridge to Salvation is an excellent scroll, because even when you look at the image, right, you see a bridge, and you see on different sides, like what they call heaven and what they call hell, and what you're going towards, which is dealing with Tamaray, dealing with Wu-Sabat, and that gate will take you to the real, this is fake, and you're going into the real world and real life. So those scrolls I mentioned would be a great start. Teuti Ta'el Rahubat Zama, yeah, you're right. It's all from the master teacher. It's facts. No one on this planet has given so much facts, because you say, yeah, we're coming with the facts from the master teacher. And yeah, let me say something. Up until a few years ago, there weren't many people saying that title, the master teacher. But because we have been consistent in saying the master teacher, other people now are trying to claim or use that term. So it's important when we say the master teacher, even though we put the, which is a definite article, that we say the name after. So it's the master teacher, Parnabab Yanun, Dr. Malachi Z. York. We always have to emphasize who we're talking about when we say the master teacher, because other people are now starting to try and use that term. So, all right. Okay, cool. Right, Shelts, want to show appreciation for your donation. Thank you so much. Rahul Bat, how can we go about opening bookstores? Oh man, that's a beautiful question. We need bookstores all over, every corner. How you go about it is, first of all, I'm sure if you're not in the Telegram group, get in the Telegram group, because you can have you can speak to me directly in the Telegram group and other student teachers, and we have sisters and brothers in there as well that can assist. But we can then give you and put you in the right direction to the administration, who would then, you have to go through the process of opening the bookstores, and you will get all the support that you need. Obviously, you need to, go through that process, but that's how you can. As long as you're sincere and you're teaching Wu-Sabat, and, the master teacher has encouraged us, we need to be very active, all right? So join our Telegram group. It's in the chat, and we can give you, direction towards the admin that will process the application and speak to you and take it from there. Okay, that's actually great, because when we're talking about Wu-Sabat, I know for newcomers, it's a thirst for the information, for the knowledge. But ultimately, you have to think, once you've got all this knowledge, you have to put it to work. This is why it's about being in communities, working together to build, and then for you to help others. And if you're running a bookstore, that's helping others, because people can come and access the information, and there are other activities that go on in the stores where people can come and, be involved. And certain information is only passed from mouth to ear and not publicly. So it's not just about, of course, you need the information. The information helps you to develop yourself and your being. But ultimately, you have to put that information into work, into practice, all right? So it's good. So it's good when we hear people doing the works. And I just want to show you something. As a Nuwapian or Sabian man, we have a part of that called the Sabian man or the Nuwapian man. And this gives you, step-by-step guide of what you should do as a Nuwapian man. And that's very important, because as men, we have to build. We have to basically provide. That's what the males are for, right? They're the providers. And we got women, children, elders, and people to look after. So read that scroll if you haven't got that as a Nuwapian or Sabian man. Okay, let's move on to Mrs. TBJ. You once spoke about a book pertaining to being born with a hole in your ear. What is the name, please? It's mentioned in many books, actually, but there is one called Are There UFOs in Your Midst? And The Man from Planet Risk. There are quite a few scrolls, but those are the two that are coming to mind. Yeah, so if that's what you're asking, what's the name of the scroll? Okay. And this is, again, why I keep emphasizing to join the Telegram group, because when questions are asked, we just literally post the links to the book from the bookstores online, and you can, you just grab them straight away. Free the Master, yes, Terry Jamal. Free the Master teacher, Parnabab Yanun, Dr. Malachi Z. York. Yeah, the one they put on the cross, that's him, because he's the willing sacrifice. Not in the way of, sacrificing as he's put his life on the line for the truth. And of course, that's known as the living Messiah, the real Messiah, the living one. Okay, so that's what it comes down to, because at the end of the day, even as I'm, sharing what I know by way of the master teacher, the same thing that happened to him could happen to me, could happen to any one of us. And are we willing to, put ourselves in the same way that he has sacrificed for us, putting all this book out, regardless of what he's been through, he's still teaching, still guiding us, still giving us, the information. And we love him so much more than even words can express. And there's nothing more that this planet needs right now than for him to, come back home and be with us. And what's really amazing is he has the solutions and the answers to the problems of the world. You would think somebody like that would be, put on a pedestal, on a stage, in a place where he could answer questions of how we could solve the problems of this chaotic world. But instead, like all others that have come in any of those religious books that they refer to, their teachers end up being unalived, incarcerated, slandered, etc., etc. So we should be in a position where we're not having it. Worldwide, we should be ready, because we're dealing with world peace. We're dealing with saving lives. We're dealing with spreading truth, dealing with getting rid of the chaos. We say no one wins the race in racism, and we're here to uplift humanity. And everyone who is about that, regardless of your color, your hair texture, and all these things that we get hung up on with people, places, and things, we should all be, fighting for that, So each one teach one. All right, so let's keep going. Captain Tenno, do colors and geometric shapes have frequencies? Like, how does it influence our daily lives? Absolutely, 100%. You have to remember that everything vibrates. Everything's a vibration. There are different vibrations at different frequencies. And this is what we're saying, that the higher the vibration, in terms of if you're vibrating on a high spiritual level, then it's going to move faster. You think faster, your brain moves faster, you're kind of able to absorb Wu-Sabat. If you are, vibrating on a low vibration, it's more dense, it's more heavy, it's more problematic, creates chaos. Tashash is fat. This is all words that relate to disagreeableness, six ether forces. So there's a doctor, if I remember his name correctly, Dr. Komoto, I think. Just Google YouTube, and he done experiments to express and show you how vibrations and frequencies would affect water. And when he played certain tones and said certain words to the water, it crystallized and formed different shapes. You see, so, and the water that was being spoken, negative words, that was getting murky and dirty, and the other one was clean and forming nice crystal shapes. And it's the same thing with plants. You can have plants that grow and they're vibrant because they are alive, because you're speaking positivity to them, and then you have others that die. So another one is the microwave. The microwaves, because that deals with frequencies. When you put, food into the microwave, you will see that it literally kills all the nutrients from it. And so, yeah, that's how you will know. But yes, absolutely, that. Remember that light can excuse my word. Light can be converted into sound, and sound can be converted into light. And these geometric shapes, like pyramids, that's why pyramids are built in a particular way. And when you look at architecture, the pyramids of Egypt till today are still standing, and they were built in a particular way because of the frequencies that they were generating, and they formed what you call standard columnar waves, which is really tachyon energy, which emits a really agreeable frequency that can help you convert from being a negative energy field, or what people call an aura, to a positive negative, and eventually to a positive. So yes, absolutely, the frequencies and music especially is so important. This is how disagreeable forces, six ether forces, utilize music to put a hypnotic spell on people, to the point where you hear certain melodies and then certain, like when they use the 808 drum beat, which really vibrates on the lowest chakra, or the chakra that is dealing with lust, dealing with, just like more negativity. That gets you going, and they do this on purpose because they know when you listen to that music and those frequencies, they're going to affect you and affect your DNA. Pictures are really light. When you look at these phones and all of these devices, the light goes into your eyes, which are really solar panels. So yes, frequencies are everything by way of the vibration, and everything vibrates. So you have to know that it does have a big effect on you. Okay, let's keep going. Cool kids, Rahul Bat, Right Knowledge TV, Supermax, Rahul Bat, D-Nerd. Greetings. I appreciate love the knowledge. No problem. Knowledge equals freedom. Absolutely. How can we open our third eye to see beyond the physical? Okay, so when we're dealing with the third eye, that's where the four higher senses come in that you've been maimed from, and clairvoyance is what you're really saying, to open your third eye, to be able to receive energy and information which you wouldn't ordinarily be able to receive, because if your pineal gland is calcified or closed because you haven't opened it, then you're not able to receive these messages that are coming from higher realms, from the cosmos. So by practicing Wu-Sabat, the doctrine, and reading and studying and putting what you're reading into practice, the spiritual practices, that's how you'll be able to open your third eye and then have clear vision, which is what clairvoyance is really about. Some people will have it naturally, but it still needs to be developed. And so really, Wu-Sabat is the answer to your question, how to open the third eye to see beyond the physical. All right? You do it anyway, but it's just that you have to open that channel wider, and you have to be astute to the fact that it's there, but you have to activate it and then use it. Okay, let's keep going. What happened to Neb Camus Senatum Ray? I miss him. Okay, I'm not quite sure who you're referring to. Rahubat Musa, is Anu is a title. What is his name? All right, so we have a scroll, right? I think it's a master secret called, let me see if I have it. A master secret called the Anunnaki and the biblical, let me see if I have it. But that scroll goes into that question in great detail. Because when you, like you say, there are different people. So for example, you had Alalu, who is Anu's brother, but that Anu, I'm sure he's in the Holy Tablets. I can't remember his name, but you have different Anus. There were like, the one we're referring to, or that is shown in the Holy Tablets, he was the 9th Anu. In that biblical the Master Secret, I can't remember the name of it. We'll see if we can find it. It gives you the, you know, their names, the families, etc., etc. So if I find it, I'll look for the name. I can't remember from the top of my head at the moment. But there were people, they had, you know, parents. Yeah, I can't remember. I'll come back to it. But that's a good question. Right, keep going. That's from Stello Scientist. We'll come back to the answer for you. Or maybe one of the brothers, other student teachers might be able to post it in the chat. Explain the movie They Live. Well, if I explain the movie D. Hemphill, I'm going to spoil it for people. So I'll give you, the gist of the movie is, yeah, do you think I should spoil it for people? I'm going to just, basically it's about opening your third eye, right? In a sense, because the world you see at the moment is an illusion. And in order to be able to really see what's happening, you, like the previous question was saying, you have to open your third eye so you can have clear vision. And in the movie, this is what the story is about, that you're looking at things, but they're not what they appear to be if your eyes are not open, okay? And when you open your eyes, you'll be able to see everything for what it really is, and then you can see the plot. And that's what's kind of happening today, where you have a lot of, let's say, marketing and advertising that puts out subliminal messages by way of the advertising, and you don't realize it's having an effect on your subconscious mind, and you're following the instructions that these subliminal messages are, you know, telling you to do. And when we say sub, remember, it's under. So it's under your conscious, which you're aware of. And so that's kind of what the movie is about. And it's like, even now, excuse me, when we talk to people about Wu-Sabat, because they've been lied to for so many years by way of these false religions and false promises of going to heaven, you have to wait to die before you can be saved. But when you're here, these deities can't do what you want them to do for you, but they claim they can do everything. They know everything, they're everywhere, omnipresent, omnipotent. They can do everything, have all the power until you need them to do something, then they can't do it. So you don't have to wait to die to go to a place, and they can't help you when you're alive, but they can punish you when you're dead, as they say, and send you to a place called hell. So yeah, so that's what's really going on with that movie. When you tell people about the truth, because they've been lied to for so long, they don't trust anyone. They're very skeptical, because it's like that's by design. Because if you want the truth, and let's say you were born a Christian, you spend all your life looking for the truth, asking questions, going to church, and you don't get the answers. And you're going to be like, maybe Islam is the one. And then you do the same thing. Spend another however many years, and you still don't get your answers. Then you might go on to being, I don't know, being a Jew or being an Israelite or something. You do that. So you're just going around in circle and wasting your life. Now, when you come to Wu-Sabat, because they have been very clever in the way they've done it, where if you see somebody dressed like myself, or if you see our symbols, you're going to think, oh, they're just another religious group, so I don't want to listen, I don't want to hear it. And even when you're telling them things they've never heard before, they just dismiss it. And so, you know, it takes a long time for people to kind of like keep trying to find something wrong with what we teach. And people, as you can see from a couple of videos we've put out, some people have been coming to classes for like 15 years, 20 years, and they're still trying to find something that they will never find. And the master teacher has been teaching for so long, published books, which many people have tried. They can't dispute the facts and the truth. So what we're saying is Wu-Sabat is the real thing. And so the movie's really showing you how when you're trying to show someone the truth, some people can be very stubborn and skeptical to the point where they can literally miss their moment. Don't be that person, you know. You can tell from your inner being, does it resonate with you? If it's not for you, it's not for you. We're not trying to, we're not religious like that. So, you know, I'm just saying that to say, yeah, that's a good question in that sense, that you're trying to get people to see the truth, and they will fight to the end until until they actually open their eyes. All right. I've been watching for about 2 weeks. I'm intrigued. I'm just wondering, with all of planets involved and their position, how do we have a chance? What do we need to do besides keeping a vibration up? Well, as you say, Aminus Sudan, 2 weeks, you're literally a baby. Join the Telegram group, at least read one book so you can get to know who the master teacher is, what our mission is, what we're about. And yeah, when you say about planets, I'm just wondering, with all of planets involved in their position, how do we have a chance? I really don't understand that part of your question. What do we need to do besides keeping a vibration up? This is not just about keeping your vibration up. It is about keeping your vibration up. It's also about doing the works to, as we say, develop yourself, develop your family, develop your community, and ultimately help develop humanity and raise our consciousness up, because what you see around you is a collective consciousness that is manifesting things in the physical. So how you think is what manifests physically, and how we think collectively has a major part on the planet in terms of the whole vibration on the planet. All right. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, we got another live call. Rahubat, please say your name, where you're calling from, and then ask your question.
Rahubat. This is Kali Monk.
Rahubat, Kali
And
Monk.
I'm calling from California.
Hey, what's happening? Kali in the house.
So I can feel it in my spirit and my soul that I'm called to gather people and to basically, without saying too much, rebuild this kingdom. You know what I mean? And my question is, I honestly, the only reason I'm still here in America because of the resources, but I definitely am planning on moving. What is the better option for me? Is it Africa? Because Africa is really far. I've been to Africa before. Central America is not so far, but I don't know about those governments over there. So what would you say is the best place to relocate once I'm done with down here?
All right. Because you started off saying about your calling, the best thing to do initially is to get with the local community where you're at, the closest one to you. If there isn't one close to you, then the nearest one. And then even online, you can join our online community, join our Telegram group, because ultimately we have a guide with us that knows and tells us where to go, when to go, how to go, etc., etc. So you have to work with us. But you've touched on a really good point, because what's going on in the world right now with the wars, with the new president in your country, etc., etc. Like, you can see tensions are very high, wars are going on. You see the war with, Ukraine and Russia. You see the Palestinian and the Israeli war. You're seeing a very risky time at the moment with the Arabs who can join in, if it escalates, and people are talking about world war, you know what I mean? So because of that, we follow and listen to the master teacher, because if you read the books, I explain, even in this book called Leviathan 666, the beast, right? 666, Leviathan, the beast, as the Antichrist, and the 10 horns, which really goes into the day and time we're living in right now, as some people look at it as a prophecy. And it talks about the ending of New Babylon. And I think this week as well, Putin launched a couple of missiles. And so the tensions are great. So what I'm saying is get into the nearest Wu-Sabat community. If you have a calling, you will then build a community and, you know, work together. And you will get to know, because not everything is going to be, you know, spoken of publicly. So that's the first step I would say for you to do, because the more you learn, the more you, like for example, I mentioned reading the Nuwapian Man, Patarak, which will give you the answers to your question, all right? And then we work together as one. Now, the part of your question that, is someone else on the line? Okay, so let me just round this up. The part of your question that I really want to address is people in America who consider themselves African Americans, all right? There was a question asked in the group today, in fact, and I just want to touch it for others, that they don't consider themselves to be African, for example, because before the continental drift, people literally walked over from Africa to America, right? And these people were referred to as the newborns or the Olmecs, right? These are the Olmecs. They were indigenous people in America. And so they were on that side when the continental drift happened. So not everybody came by way of the kidnapping, which they call the slave trade. So those people in America have a right to claim that they're indigenous and are Americans. But the point is that when the gap between the two got so big that you couldn't walk across anymore, these Olmecs, they brought over like the rubber plant, which, you know, that's another story. But the way you know that the continental drift took place, because some people dispute that as well, is if you go on the coasts of both sides, you will find the same trees, plants, and soil and everything on both sides. That gives you a clear indication that they were once together. But the point I'm really making is that these African Americans claim that they're not Africans, but you are not where you are at. Names of locations are not where you're from. You know, names like Jamaican, Trinidadian, it's about the DNA. Yeah, your DNA is from Africa, so you are African. People try to claim that they're American by way of the fact that they're in that land, but originally their DNA and everything comes from Africa. But yeah, we can go into more detail about that once you come onto the Telegram group. Rahubat, sorry I was kept you waiting for a bit. What's your name, where you calling from, and what's your question?
Thank you, brother. It's truly worth the wait. This is Leon again, calling you from Texas with another question.
Sure, go ahead.
I've been watching a lot of information regarding, I believe it's West Africa, Mali and Niger, and I hope I pronounced this right, Binika Fali. And one of the big issues, I think they're falling in line, and I'm trying to get your take on this, with the new president, also with Senegal, how they're pushing back on the West, and they're stating that Trump has made some allegations about if they decide to get the colonialism out of their country and start going back to their own natural resources, because all they've done is just sucked out their resources and given them pennies. That's why they wanted to poise countries on Earth. But the Europeans are prospering from, not just Europeans, but also the West, from their minerals. So they're pushing back, and Trump, in a way, is threatening. They've already thrown sanctions on him. So now they're forging a relationship with Russia and China. And I just want to get your viewpoint, because it seems as if that shift that I constantly hear you speaking about is taking place, along with these so-called African Americans that are going back into South Africa and Ghana. So where are we there? Because I know that these three particular countries are high in uranium and oil and diamonds. And I know that the president of Senegal told France they had until December, and they no longer want to associate with them unless they're willing to renegotiate how they're distributing the minerals that they're actually taking from the country. So if you can elaborate for me a little more about where we're headed.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Thank you.
Got your question. First of all, if you notice, the God of the Bible, they deal with fear. This is what they use for why people even listen or follow these religions, because if you don't, you're going to be burnt in a place called hell. So this is a tactic that has come by way of the Adamites. However, their time is up. As I mentioned, they were given the dominion to rule the planet for the last 6,000 years. And now they're being, by natural nature, being wiped out or fading away. So that tactic of fear is what was used even with what they call slavery. And that's one of the biggest reasons for our people not coming together and uniting, because when you were beaten and stripped off of your land, your language, everything, and then given a replacement, and you see that, this is why we say the slave and the slave master cannot worship the same God. But that fear is what keeps people in check. But unfortunately now, natural nature is activating people all over the world by way of Wu-Sabat. People that are dealing with righteousness, consciousness, Wu-Sabat. And even the African countries and leaders have now seen the tricks that were used to colonize. The colonizers, like with the the Berlin Conference, where they carved up Africa, and France and European countries and America, etc., have been, they think they've been looting the country, but most people are now realizing, because it's the time where you're being activated, that these were lies. The colonizers were stealing our resources, and they're now changing. And the thing is that even with all that was taken from Africa, it's less than 10% of what is still there and what's really there. And with the dimensional shift and the planet itself turning back, because it's on a 23-degree angle, it's now going back to its original angle, which means that the resources such as the oil are now being tilted back into Africa. And you've seen that certain African countries are now discovering oil. So yes, it's the fear, but we're not afraid, because it's the sun cycle is here, is our time, and that is irreversible. There's nothing that can be done about that. The point is, people have to not be afraid, stand up and be who they are. Give back all the things that have entrapped you and enslaved you, and start to rebuild, and start to, the diaspora working with the motherland to work and build. So yes, you're seeing the alliances, because even the West, as in, the conflicts that's going on, the alliance between African countries, and no one's really that intimidated or afraid of the West anymore, especially America, that is actually in trillions and trillions of dollars in debt, and literally it's falling. Babylon is falling, and that's why we're saying, like, be on the right side of when things get, as we say, sticky. But I hope that answered the question. I've got another caller, so I'm going to have to cut that short. Rahubat, please say your name and where you're calling from, and your question, please.
Rahubat, Brother Sukenis Kojo, the first caller from London.
Hey, Rahubat again.
Just wondering if you can expand on your answer. So you mentioned the 33 commandments and the Flugerods
Yes.
in your explanation. But I was just asking if you can expand on the sense of, from me living in the West and visiting Western countries, whether it's America, Canada, New Zealand, Europe, I have noticed how Caucasians do tend to have a high level of affection, desire, and, say, compassion and love towards canines. Could you just explain on the avenue of, in terms of how did it get into their DNA?
I kind of touched on it. It's because they basically were practicing bestiality, and so the DNA is part of them, and they, as I said, when they were grafted, they were actually, those genetics were part of that graftation. The Homo simian, the Homo canine, which is what you're talking about. This is why you hear the phrase, "Dogs is man's best friend," but you have to ask, which man are we talking about? Because when you say mankind, you're literally saying a kind of a man. So that's how, you know, it got involved in their DNA, because even when you look at the story of the Romans, Greeks and Romans, they talk about Romulus and I can't remember the other one, Remus and Romulus. You will see that they tell you about the story of, you know, being groomed and as a baby by these wolves. And remember, the dog is a descendant of the wolf or the jackal. You see, so it is in their DNA. They've actually done DNA tests to see what genetics everyone on the planet has, and you know they do come up with those DNA, those genes. But the book you really want to read is 18 plus 1, 18 plus 1, 37 genes of the mitochondrial DNA. And you can read that. But this book as well, called The Dog, it's a whole book that goes into what you're asking. And I'm going to read a little excerpt from page 115, where it says, you know, it's basically saying how they were like. If you read even in the Bible, Revelations 14:1, it talks about, you know, yeah, these people, and it goes on to say, what kind of dogs did the sons of Canaan lie with? It said there were members of the original dog family, along with the Tibetan dog, the hyena, the wolf, as I was just saying. The original dog family became carnivorous after the flood. These dogs were similar to the lepers in that they preyed off small animals, and the lepers were to the point of being able to mix with these dogs because they had fallen so low as to eat raw flesh as the dogs did and walked on all fours as they did. The result of this abomination produced such unsightly creatures as vampires and the wolfman, right? Because remember that, as I mentioned before, the leprosy meant that they had sores all over their body, and the dogs used to lick the sores to help them heal. So it goes on to say that which are the missing link in the Euro-American story. In the Euro-American so-called search for the missing link in his ancestry, he did not look any further than his own backyard. Yeah, the beast friend, the dog. And it shows you the images and pictures and everything, but it goes on to say that the sentimental attachment and the physical attachment that the Euro-American has with animals is a part of his natural heritage. Yeah, to prove to you that the Canaanite knows what he is and who you are, more basically, perhaps I can learn how it is that I can walk upright, speak and speculate about myself. There was a time when my ancestors could do none of these things. They were not men, but ape-like creatures living in the trees. You know, but it goes on into much, much more detail. That's that.
Perfect.
Yeah, so, yeah, but they're different types, and we have to, again, always be clear on that. Yeah, they're different types, and this ties into when the anthropologists are now trying to find, because that missing link that was mentioned in the book is because people are taught in the Bible that we all come from one place, one person, Adam, which we now know is not true, because when you're saying Adam, you're saying Adamites, and there are different Adams in the Bible story because it's dealing with the different genetic experiments that were taking place at different times, and different hybrids come from the different experiments, you see. All right, Tyson Jim, enough respect, brother. Sharon, look her up. Okay, he's giving me a name to look up. If you really want, you can come from and the real history of mankind. All right. Is Wu-Sabat only for black people? No, Wu-Sabat is for humanity. However, if you can't deal with the truth, then that's going to be an issue for you, because Wu-Sabat deals with facts. And some of these truths can be, as they say, the truth can be hard to digest, you know. But if you can handle the truth, Wu-Sabat is really about people that want to vibrate and change the world to a better world. It's for humanity. Yeah, someone else has just posted that as well, so that's true. Wow, they're coming in fast now, so I'm going to have to cut the answers quite short. It's from the Wisdom of Tahuti, that's right. Does it go back to Egypt? No, when you say Egypt, this is another thing we have to clear up. People have run ahead, and what you're calling Egypt today is really what you've been taught about Egypt, which comes from the word Egyptos, which is dealing with when you had certain people ruling a small part of Egypt, i.e. the Phoenicians and the Canaanites that came in to Egypt. So we go pre-dynastic Egypt, yeah, before the dynasties, to these beings that we're calling the Pataites. These are the Neolithic beings that were on the Nile, by the Nile River, and you can go to that era and start to learn about these beings. So Egypt is only talking about a time when the Europeans came into Egypt, and the Hyksos dynasty, which are referred to as the Hyksos, because that means Hyksos dynasty, and they were burnt by the sun, and they had black faces or burnt black faces because of the melanin deficiency. So this is where that word Egyptos or Egyptos come from. When we talk about Egypt, you hear some people use the term Kemet, which goes, even that ties into the biblical story of Ham anyway, because what they do is try and tie everything to the Bible to make the Bible seem authentic, because they tell you about stories of everybody going to Egypt. You know, Moses was found in Egypt in a basket. Jesus had to run to Egypt to hide when the Pharaoh, Herod the Great, sorry, not the Pharaoh, Herod was trying to kill all the children. You had Abraham went to Egypt. Everyone goes to Egypt. Why? To Joseph's family, when there was a famine, they all ran to Egypt. So by adding Egypt to the Bible, it makes it seem like it's real. But Egypt itself was in existence way, way before the biblical stories, you know. So that's why they tie everything to Egypt. But we are going way, way back to the time way before the term Egypt was coined, and we were known as Nuwapians. Okay, another caller, so let me just interject. Hey, Rahul Bat, what's your name, where you calling from, and what's your question?
Tiffany from London.
Hey, how you doing?
And but asking you the question or the guy on live right now?
Say that again.
I'm asking you the question or the...
Yeah, I am the person that's live. So I am Saken.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so listen, my question is though, what's the essence of our existence as a Negro, or as a chosen one, should I say? And then how do we navigate through this, if you will, this matrix?
Okay.
What's the ultimate goal, if you know what I mean, spiritually as well?
Yeah. All right. Number one, we're not Negroes. We're Nuwapians, right? And the essence is to learn and know about who you are and your powers, and to come together and work to build our future, and then prepare for your transition into the higher realms so that you can continue experiencing those realms, because there are higher realms where you can exist as pure energy beings, and the beings that control what people are calling the planet, this solar system, the universe. These are our ancestors. They're the guardians of the galaxies, the guardians of the universe, multiverses and omniverses. So work is done on an intergalactical level once you transcend to those levels. So it's not just about this one planet Earth. You know, to keep the Earth and the other planets and the solar system and the other, you know, as I said, the dual verses, multiverses, omniverses, it's a lot of work. So you do need beings that have to elevate to have, for lack of a better word, it's like you're here now and experiencing but a life, but what it is your life has been reduced to becoming a slave for the system and working for the system and what you call your slave masters to build this fictitious world that we live in. But there is life beyond this. So that's what you're aspiring to do. And you're only going to know what to do by being taught. And a lot of people don't want to take baby steps. Everybody just wants it like now. What you know, this is not fast food. That's their world. So what I'm saying is, you've got to be groomed. You've got to be taught about your spiritual side. You have the unseen world and you have the seen world. You have, your 360-degree being on this realm composed of 180 degrees of what you will call disagreeable and another 180 degrees of what you call agreeable. One of those sides, preferably your agreeable side, has to master the disagreeable so that you can become functionally a 360-degree agreeable being, so that when you transcend to the next realm, you're now an agreeable being in that world. And then you have to kind of do the same thing in your learning and growth to conquer, the disagreeable counterpart of you in that realm. So you become a full being known as a supreme being or an Etherean when you're full 720 degrees agreeable. And then you'll experience and live different types of existences where, like I said, you become one of those beings that can transcend a different realm. So a pure Etherean being, some of them have the leave to be able to come and go at will, being able to personify and come here physically, do things and help and go back and do the things they do in the realms that they are working in. So it's not just as simple as the religious world teaches you, you're just here, you got to be good, then you die and then you go to heaven. And then when you start to ask questions about this place, they can't answer the questions because you say, what do we do in heaven all day long? Do we just walk around? Do we have jobs? What ages are we? What ages are people? How do the angels wear clothes? Because they always appear in white robes. What are these robes made of? Is it cotton? If it's cotton, that means somebody grows cotton and picks cottons. That means you have tailors. When you start to pick these little, using your mind to pick it all up, it's like, this place doesn't really make sense, you see, because your God is sitting on a throne with angels around him and the deity, shall I say. And if he's sitting down, that means he's sitting on a throne that's bigger than him. And where is this throne? Is it in a house? They say mansions. All right, does he have furniture in the mansion? Does he have beds? Does he only sit down forever, or does he get up and go to bed? Does he go to toilet? These are the kind of questions that, just using your mind, when you start to probe and ask them, it's like you're being, you're blaspheming. You can't ask God those questions. But they say you can pray to him and ask him questions. So it gets into what we call babble, which is confusion, and it entraps your mind so that you don't know who you are, you don't know what to do, so that you can prepare for your transition from here. So that's giving you a good synopsis of what you have to do. Come into Wu-Sabat and be groomed and start to learn. Okay, more questions. Rahubat, is karma a system of belief or is it an actual fact? Is the Hindu god Ganesha connected to the Dero? Yes, he is actually. And karma is not a system of belief. It's a system of energy, right? It's a belief in the sense that the way religions teach it, but it's more about, it's like for every action, there is an opposite reaction. So it's based on fate, which deals with natural nature, like things will happen in a particular way and people will call it, karma. But if you know about we're ontologists, so what people are calling time is based on a fictitious time, like because you have a clock and you think that the clock is moving and the hand is going tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, and it's moving in a particular way, in a linear fashion. So you start and there's an end. It doesn't work that way. And once you come outside of the time belt of the planet, then you're not governed by that time, you see. So what we're saying is that as ontologists, if you've been around for millions and millions of years, you can pretty much predict what's going to happen because things are in cycles. Time is in a cycle. It doesn't move in one direction and end. This is why the religious concept of Alpha and Omega doesn't make sense, because there can't be a beginning and an end because it's a cycle. So we've been around for millennium and we've been here for trillions of years. So we can pretty much tell you what's going to happen. by way of what we call natural nature or fate. And one of those rules, for example, here is like gravity. In this three-dimensional world, there are rules that govern this three-dimensional world. And if you throw something up, it's going to fall down, right? So when you move on to the other realms, you have rules that are different to these ones here because you're not governed by time. So what I'm basically saying is what people are calling karma are things that basically happen by way of natural nature. Like if you, when you're dealing with energy, you create a certain amount of energy, it will have an effect on the outcome of other things, you see. I came giving you what you want so you can learn to want what I have to give. Absolutely. This is what people don't take into account, that Pana Babyanun is just giving people what they want in terms of the first half hour when he started to teach from 1970, because people are asking questions based on what they want and not what he has come to give. And most of the time that's a distraction because we don't let him speak and give us what he wants to give. That's why his incarceration, he says, he has now perfected our way and he's given us everything we need. Our language, our culture, our scriptures, the way we should live based on our love and unity, how we should operate. And so people have to just follow that. But, you know, we get caught up with asking questions about religion constantly. And people will say, why do we talk about religion when we have so much outformation? It's because he said, when he was taking us through these schools, a lot of people weren't ready, or he lost a lot of people along the way, and he's just circled right back to pick them back up. Those who are ready will come back, those who left will come back, those who are new are coming. And so people are at different stages. So we have to answer questions on religion because, as I was saying before, many people are still skeptical, they've been lied to, they have trust issues, you know, they've had trauma in their life with, you know, the atrocities that they've been experiencing. And it's going to take them a while to feel love and feel comfortable and to make that decision. But Wu-Sabat is the future, there's nothing else. And all the other parts, other religions, other organizations, other people that are talking truth, well, if they are talking truth, they're going to have to put that truth with the full truth, because there's no point giving you bits of truth with no direction or no culture or nowhere to take you. This is why Wu-Sabat is the one to complete what you already know and what you've learned, because truth is truth, you know. Crazy how, gosh, this is moving so quickly. I'm just gonna, yeah, let me just see. Ajayi Moses, you always showing us love. Appreciate love your donation, thank you. What is the significance of the 24 elders? And in Transformers, when they talked about Metatron's cube, are they talking about the elder called Metatron? That's an excellent question. Well, the first part, as I was saying, if you look at, let's say you're running a massive organization, right? You're going to have the CEO or the director or whatever term you call it. Before that, you might have the founder or the owner. And then you're going to have people in positions that you delegate to do the works, right? And so you form what they will call like a management team. And then those managers will work with, you know, you can have maybe different, you know, different sites in different countries and so forth, right? Branches, etc. So when you're looking at the work we have to do as these elders, as I mentioned before, you're dealing with managing and keeping everything operating in order, right? Order is what runs the, like I said, the solar system, the planets, because planets are put in specific places to be in specific orbits to carry out certain things that all align with not only this particular galaxy, but the other galaxies as well. And so it requires real elders and people that that are able to manage. That's why I said the guardians of the universe. When they show you movies like Men in Black, and you have people that are trying to find extraterrestrials that have broken the immigration laws and have come here and they're here doing all kinds of stuff, that's a real story about some of the ancestors that are the real Men in Black that actually find these disagreeable beings that have escaped and have come here. So to answer your question, what do the 24 elders do? The master teacher, Partner Babyanun, is one of those 24 elders, known as the 19th elder. But the one that is sitting in the current 24th seat to bring about the 24,000 year renewal of our history and the sun cycle is that's why he's here. That's his job. And to do that, he's got to wake people up from their slumber, to giving them right knowledge, right wisdom, right understanding, to be able to use sound right reasoning to make better decisions and to know what to do, to be a part of that community. So that's that part of your 24 elders question. This is why they tell you that they surround the person in the seat or the throne, and they are, those beings have elevated to that seat. Yeah, and I don't know if it's a coincidence with the Metatron, because as you say, he's one, as in, he's one of those 24 elders. We showed that last week. But yeah, that's what they do. And there's a lot of work to do in governing planets and galaxies and universes and multiverses and omniverses. So this is what I'm saying, that you will get to experience those other things if you are able to get to that grade where you can then be assigned a task or to work under these 24 elders to do many things. So even like the Nibiru story, where you have, you had many beings on Nibiru, because Nibiru is as big as this planet, the craft. And you can imagine just to man that craft alone, and there are other crafts. So yeah, I hope that's answered your question. Lego King is cool. You're definitely very cool with your donation. Thank you so much. Please tell us about the master teacher. Why was he wrongfully in prison? Can you do an interview with him in prison? Please give me a rundown about Wu-Sabat. Help me understand. I have so many questions. Yeah, that sounds like a whole class on its own. The master teacher is here, and with his coming, he had been prophesied in all the religious books. He's known in all the cultures and all the books by different names, the greatest one being Tahuti. He's known in the Bible as the angel Michael, the archangel Michael, who is the highest angel. He's known in the Quran as Al-Khidir, who's the green one. He's known as, many titles. And because he's a reincarnation that comes from time to time to renew our history, our story, to bringing about a shift, a dimensional shift, to bringing about what we call the new cycle of the sun cycle of the next 24,000 years. And so one of his main jobs is to dispel of the spell of Leviathan, also known as the spell of Kingu. It's known by many names, and this spell is what is holding people's minds trapped in religion and in not knowing who they are, what they're here to do, and what they should be doing to prepare for this 24,000 years. So by teaching the truth means that you have to eliminate lies and eradicate lies, which those who benefit from pushing these lies are obviously going to not want to happen, because it means their time is ending. And in all the religious books, they tell you of this time coming. Some of them refer to as the book of Revelation, which is the end times, prophecy, the book of prophecy that talks about. It's just that they then tell you that is this person called Jesus that's coming to save you. And then others are waiting for their Jesus. And some are, they don't know who this is. And so he is here, and he's got in prison because by waking up too many people to the truth, the powers that be don't want that to happen, because, as I said, it's their end, because they all teach that when the truth comes, falsehood will perish, and now it's happening. Those that are not telling the truth don't like it, so this is why he has been wrongfully imprisoned. Can we do an interview with him in prison? No, because he is in the, one of the most secure, facilities on the planet. And there are only certain privileges and certain rights that you can have to be able to do that. And if you want to help and want to know more about the legal case, which has been going on for a long time, you can go to freedryork.com, join our Telegram group so we can share information. And when you say give you a rundown, that's a big story, because, he appeared on the scene in the 60s. Well, before that, we can go all the way to his birth. He's a seeded entity and was prepared to receive this being that is known as Yanun, and the master teacher, Yanun. He is the master teacher throughout the ages, and he was born to do this work, and from an early age, he was being groomed and chosen and being taken up by extraterrestrial beings that showed him and explained where he was from, as in from the planet Risk, in the galaxy known as Ilion. And, he was told about his mission. You can read all of that in the scroll, The Man from Planet Risk, and the Akasha Records, that goes into a lot of detail. And I must emphasize that reading is so important, because you get a connection and you can get the full details, about his life, and also there's another book called The Guidance, the actual fact called The Guidance, that goes into that. And if I may just show you in this Akasha Records that I was talking about, the Akasha Records shows you, his lineage, his mother and his father, Mary Abba Okran, Mary C. York, that's his mother, and you have Sayyid Al-Hadi Abdul Rahman Al-Hadi Muhammad. So, lots of information, detailed information about who he is on the physical side. But as we all have, our soul and our spiritual being, the being that we're saying that is in control of his pen, he's the being we speak about as Yanun. So the physical body is Malachi York. And this is something people get confused with a lot of the times, but he's an avatar, a being that, not someone that is possessed, as some people like to say, but he's somebody that is able to channel, and beings have channeled through him throughout the ages to produce and give you all the information. And as Tahuti being the most knowledgeable being on the planet, writing, many, many, many books in ancient times, he guides his pen as Parnabab Yanun. Okay, Rahubat, student master teacher, I am confused as to where the Terror people are. Oh, before I say that, let me go to Lego King is Cool. Again, thank you so much for your contribution. How can I contact you personally for guidance? First thing, join the Telegram group. I'm in there answering questions and speaking to people all the time. And then if you want to have a one-to-one, we can arrange that. But yeah, join the Telegram group. We keep posting it in the chat. We're posting all the links, where you can get the scrolls, the books, and everything that I'm talking about. Okay, let's keep going. I've noticed he's a 33 life path. Crazy. He truly is a master teacher in numerology too. Okay. You can stop joking now. I don't know what the joke was, but yeah, they might be having a conversation in the chat, but it's moving so fast. Let me keep going with the questions. Wow. Bonafide Laurie says nearly 300 watching and 19 likes. Just hit the likes. Okay, yeah. And yeah, please, if you want to help, this is a mission, right? There are such simple things you can do to help, like just liking the videos, sharing the videos, subscribing to the channel. That literally takes you a few moments, because we get people say, we love what you're doing, I like what you're doing. But when we say, please subscribe, because we've got to unlock certain gifts for you when we reach certain targets. And you can help us by subscribing, by liking, by sharing. You know, that's very easy to do. And of course, you can get into our Telegram group, because all of these platforms, these social media, they run on algorithms. And those algorithms are run by AI. And it's not about emotions, it's about how many likes, how many people are viewing, how many people are sharing, how many people are subscribing. So if you all do that, it helps us to continue to push out more and more information. Yeah, so please help us. If you haven't done so already, please like right now, subscribe, share, and hit that notification bell so that you can be alerted to any content that we post, all right? That would be very much appreciated. All right, next. Interested to know about the Abyss Ball and the Seraphim, and could you please confirm the Pleiadian star system aligns with Taurus Mountain, which also aligns to the Seraphim? Yeah, but it's kind of the other way around, because this, the Seraphim are the, yeah, you're right, they're the good ones. Yeah, the cherubims are the bad ones, the seraphims are the good ones. So the Pleiades star system, which is really the 6-star system, and that's in, I don't have the scroll. But anyway, yeah, that deals with these Pleiadians and the Draconians. And these star systems, right, you have many beings in a star system. It's like having, like here, we have many continents and we have many countries and many different beings all over the place. It's the same. So you have agreeable and disagreeable beings in most of these, star systems. But the Pleiadians, this is where, you know, people like the presidents, I think it was Abraham Lincoln, all of them, they were connected to these Pleiadians as their overlords. And you'll see that the obelisk in Washington actually points to that star system. We have a scroll, I'm trying to think, I think it's, it must be, I think it's 18 plus 1, 18 plus 1 equals 37 genes of the mitochondrial DNA. It might be that one, if not. But anyway, that goes into the details of what you're asking me about. Okay, so, wow, it's coming up to 9 o'clock. We only have about half an hour left, so yeah, if you want to get your question in. Another donation, hit the phone. Yeah, just hit that X. Yeah, I forgot to say hi to all the people on TikTok that's tuning in as well. So we try to get on as many platforms as we can. But Lego King is cool. Another donation.
No, mirror.
Is it Mirror?
Yeah.
Oh, can't find.
Would you say?
Oh, there you go. Marami.
Yeah. She's also sent in 3 questions before the video.
Oh, that's Mara. Okay. Yeah, thank you for your video questions. And yeah, they were great questions. Would you say that everything is cause and effect? Yeah, that's a great question. You see, what it is the English language can throw you off. So a lot of times we have to dissect the words. And this is why we have our own language where there's no confusion. When you say everything, yeah, remember you have to define what things are. So when you're saying things are here in this physical realm. This is why in the three-dimensional world, because the vibration is lower and you slow down in density. So yes, here in the physical world, there are rules that govern this three-dimensional world. So when you're dealing with things, no matter how tiny or small they are, as in, the building blocks, they're still things because they're quantifiable. So yes, things here in this three-dimensional world deal with cause and effect. This is why you have to deal with the duality all the time of, things can swing from one to the other. This is why we say you can't just have something start from here and go to there in a linear fashion like cold, because cold can go to a point where it becomes hot, and hot can go to a point where it becomes cold, hence the cycle. And when you say the cycle, you're really saying circle. And wherever you're standing or wherever you're positioned as the center of your universe, so everything is equidistant away from you. So in a circle, the person who knows where the circle begins from, so when you start to draw a circle, you'll have a point, and then you draw, and then it will meet back up to that point. Now, the person who started to draw the circle knows where that point started, but someone who didn't see where that point started from would just look at the circle and won't know, did the circle start at this point, that point, that point, that point, or that point. So everything is a cycle or a circle. So cause and effect is based on the decisions of you being in the middle, and if you sway to one side, there will be an equal opposite reaction on the other side. So if you have too much fun or pleasure, you're gonna get to a point where you're gonna have to have the equivalent on the other side, which is gonna be suffering. This is why the teachings of people like Buddha and enlightened people, they will say that desire leads to sufferation. The more you desire things, that gets to that point where, the pendulum has to swing in the other direction. So yes, that cause and effect does happen in the three-dimensional world, but not in other worlds. So in the spiritual realm, for example, you don't have that because the concept of time and up and down and left and right does not exist in that way. And so, yes, in this physical world, in the three-dimensional world, where you have things, it does have a cause and effect. So if you throw something up, it's going to fall down. All right, that's for you, Mara. Thanks for your question. Do you conduct any physical classes anywhere in London? Yes, of course. That's from question Yayo. Yeah, we do. We have physical classes every week in Croydon. You can check it out, nashat.co.uk. Yes, we do. That's a simple answer. And look at the chat. The information is in the chat. Thoughts on Billy Carson? I've heard of the Akashic records many times. What exactly are they? Where can I learn more? So, where you can learn more about the Akashic records is from the scroll, there you go, called the Akashic Records by the one and only Parna Babyanun, Dr. Malachi Z. York. Now, a lot of people talk about it, but they don't fully understand what it is. And that's a good start for you. But the Akashic Records is dealing with records that are on higher realms, where the Natharu, or these beings, these elders that we spoke about, they keep records on everything because you are actually a hologram or a holographic computer, or a fractal, as Billy Carson would say. And you record everything because your senses record everything, because the 5 senses you're taught about are literally one, which deals with touch, perception or awareness. So your eyes record everything you see, your tongue will record everything that it touches or tastes, your ears record everything by way of the sound waves, and ultimately your touch records everything you touch in these records known as the me stones that are kept on the higher realms by way of your matrix. You have a matrix which records everything. So you can't really run from yourself or hide from yourself. And so, you know, when people teach in religion that, especially in Islam, that you have two angels on either side that are keeping records, they're really talking about these beings that have been assigned to you that store and manage your matrix. So Bill Carson talks about the Akasha records, and these records are stored in, for lack of a better word, known as a spiritual realm with these libraries, which you tap into them by way of your mind to the mental reservoir where these records are recorded. So that's that great abode where all records of everyone and everything is kept. And when you're crossing over, these records, which are really where this judgment thing comes from, where they can look and read your records. Remember, you're dealing with extraterrestrials of high intelligence with highly evolved technology. And now on the planet, this is starting to happen where, you know, you have quantum computers now. You have computers that can record everything from your birth all the way to when you cross over. That's how much information now we're able to store. So that's what the Akasha records are dealing with. But obviously there's more to it than that. And people that are listening to other people like Bill Carson and others, they should really question them and ask them, you know, more detail about what they teach. Yeah, so I've answered that. Where can I learn about them? What are they? And you can get that scroll and read more about it and then ask more questions. Okay, much love, Dr. Malachi Z. York, Noble Evans was one of, Bun was one of my favorite teachers. My question is the master teacher the author of these new books? Absolutely. That's another question that, I want to answer properly, because people say, because of his incarceration, some people claim it's not him. But the thing is, when he was here, actually physically in the flesh amongst us, the question you should ask is, how you, the reader, how did you know that those books that were out during that time were from him? Because you were not there to physically see him actually write or put it together. And so you have to ask yourself, how do you know they were by him, right? And that's actually a simple answer, because you connected with it. You understood by reading the books, his tone, right? The vibration that resonated with your soul, and the information that was being put out, which no one else was able to put out. And so when I say tone, I'm dealing with a vibration. So if I was on the other side of the planet and you called me on my phone, on my mobile phone, that's a connection between me and you by way of tones, because you will be able to recognize my voice, because everyone is unique, because everyone has fingerprints that are unique, everyone has a unique tone. So if you can recognize my voice and can feel my tone, and you could do that with the scrolls that he wrote, when you read these new scrolls, which are even more powerful, you can feel the vibration and the tone and the energy in the scrolls. You will know for yourself how you knew when you first read your first scroll, or how you felt, how you had DNA explosions when you read that scroll. But there's even more information to that, because he actually has recordings when he was asked, when he was in the Isle of Patmos, and certain other, information that he has written whilst he's been, incarcerated, where he has answered the question himself. Because the likes of the books like Genetic Kiss and the Akasha Records and many scrolls that he's put out with information that no one else has put out can only come from him. Yeah, so yes, the answer to that is, yeah, Noble Evans, Bun was one of his student teachers. And yes, the master teacher is the author of these books. And another thing, just as when artists, you notice when artists are no longer with us and yet they release an album and it's new material that you've never heard before. And you're like, well, how is he releasing new music if he's no longer here or she's no longer here? And the fact is they've written so many songs, albums that have not ever been released. And they're now released once they're gone. So there are books and things that the master teacher wrote that were never released and they came out during the time he was incarcerated. Some books may have what we call typographical errors, grammatical errors, where, books have to be compiled and put together in terms of, he writes some things handwritten and they have to be typed. Images have to be put together. The office does a lot of work to then compile what he has written, but he always gets to see the final product to approve it, you see. So I hope that's answered that question thoroughly for anyone who says he's not writing the books. Follow what I just said and you will find out for yourself that he does. Okay. The other day I was conversing and debating with a person who was claiming that the master teacher is not Afro Uno. How can we prove that Panda Babyanun is indeed Afro Uno? Because you asked them to explain the things that were written and asked them to prove that if he is not, who is it then? Bring the likes of the person who claims to be, and people will know by questioning that person the same way we get questioned about what they write and what they teach, and the same way Panda Babyanun gets scrutinized and questioned. So it's easy for someone to say or make a claim, but then they have to bring the proof, yeah? If they're saying he is not, then shows who is. That's what the Quran also said. It said, like, if someone comes to you and says that this is not the moon, then tell them to produce it or prove, so it's like people will say, some people that are just about being negative and criticizing, or, do you know what I mean? Like coming with that type of energy, they will say, I don't like this, or you're not doing that properly, or like sometimes we read the comments and people are like, you're not doing this or you're not doing this right. But if you ask them to do it themselves, they don't do it. So the best way is to prove it by way of your actions, not by typing and talking and lip service. All right, let's keep going. How can you tell what star you're from? If you mean the horoscope thing, that's really, it's not accurate. It's based on what we call solo biology, yeah? Not lunar astrology. Solar biology deals with the energies that were at the time that you were conceived, but that goes into a whole different thing. But yeah, it's based on your mother, your father, and the personalities that make you up, and what they call the timestamp or the zero time reference of all those people that make you up and your zero time reference. Okay. Is it possible, we've got 20 minutes left, so coming to the end. Is it possible to exit the reality of gangs talking and technology, dream torture, and would you say it is an interdimensional issue? Oh, gang stalking. I thought, yeah, the way it looks like gang stalking. Yeah, you do that by you changing your vibration and your frequency and your mindset to the point where they cannot penetrate your field. You have to build a psychic self-defense and just absorb yourself in Wu-Sabat, which will help you to communicate with your ancestors who will protect you, because everyone has agreeable and disagreeable, and you can use your what you would term disagreeable to defend yourself against these negative forces. And that's why you have to be practicing Wu-Sabat. That's for all of us, all right? Rahubat, student, master teacher. I am confused as to where the Tero people are. Are they not supposed to keep the Dero in line? Why do the Tero now live on Kingu, Aka the moon, instead of Nirvana? Right, you see, sometimes if you're asking a question, please ask a question, but if you're making a statement, then we have to look for the question in your statement. And sometimes the statement is incorrect. So when you say, where are the Tero? A lot of the beings that live, because people always say, mainly flat earth people, they talk about the Antarctic and the ice wall and things like that. And the master teacher has taught us by way of, where is that scroll? Shambhala and Agata. Wow, that was very quick. Yeah, by way of this scroll, Shambhala and Agata, which I mentioned in that Yakub's video, the big head scientist, it tells you about the caverns and the inner subterranean world where many entrances that led to the inner world, right, they got blocked because people were disappearing and people were falling into them and never coming back, or just going into the caverns by accident. Now, people, if you read that scroll, it shows you that diagram, and watch the video on Yakub, the big-headed scientist. It explains that, like, entrances into the caverns and then into the subterranean world known as Shambhala were, like, some of them were under the pyramids in Egypt, some are in South America, in certain places, and they've been blocked, or some of them past the Antarctic, and they've been blocked, and now people can't go through or go to those areas anymore because beings are still living there. A lot of them have also left the planet. So yeah, they're still there, and some have left, and they've had offspring on the planet. What was the other part of the question? You said something about them on the moon. No, it's not them on the moon, it's the Greys that are inhabiting the moon now. And yeah, because you said they now live on Kingu, the moon. There are different moons. The Kingu moon that you're talking about is separate from the moon that is orbiting our planet. Yeah? And the Nirvana, that ties into those Hindu beings, as you were saying. But I'm just trying to remember your question. Are they not supposed to keep the Dero? Yeah, that whole story of the Deros, that was really the Donakil that was supposed to keep the Deros in check, because the Dero and the Teros were at war, constantly in conflict, shall I say. So the Donakil was supposed to keep them in check. And yeah, so what happened is they tried to make peace with the Tero to stop the conflict between the Tero and the Dero. And this is why that whole story I broke down on that Yakub video, they basically married into the Teros to try and, you know, stop the conflict. And then that ended up between the Donakil and the Teros, they ended up producing Yakub, you know, from that union to make peace. Okay, cool, let's move on. We have 15 minutes left. Oh, thanks, Mara Mir. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. You just said, thank you so much for answering that. Okay, cool. Is that a regular schedule for asking questions? Yeah, we have the opportunity for you to ask questions constantly. So we have live classes twice a week. The live YouTube today, every Tuesday. The Saturday, where you can join in on Zoom and on Clubhouse, as well as physically live. And then we have the Telegram group where you can post your questions and they get answered throughout every day. So we're very accessible. Like we say, we are the only people I know who say, ask us anything. And we've been doing that for over 50 years in the different locations, different temples, stores, classes all around the world. Okay. Very, very interesting. Thank you. Can we tap into the Akashic records, and why are we supposed to, or why can we? Yeah, listen, okay, let me explain it in a simple way. So, in your physical form, you still have within you what we call your solar plexus, which can be activated to become more of the green light or the amber light. The green light is agreeable, right? This is the part of you where you connect with the other energy source all the way through your etheric parents to these higher realms. And that is the part of you that you want to develop. That's that little light of yours that you need to make shine by way of tapping into Wu-Sabat and doing the agreeable things. The disagreeable part of you is the genetics that we've received by way of our mixture with these reptilian beings. So we have that reptilian brain and that reptilian nature within us. Because I saw somebody else says, I like to eat meat. I love eating meat. Well, if you want to keep eating meat and that's what you like, you can do that. We're not here to force anybody to do anything they don't want to do. But once you activate that higher consciousness of yourself, you want to do the right things and do the things that are best for your being, your physical being, your spiritual being, your mental being, and your etheric being. So in terms of you tapping into that Akasha Records, you can, because that's where you as a client is attached to that network. Like, computers or devices, like these devices, we're connected to a network. Even though there are no wires, you have a provider that you're connected to, which is a bigger network. So you can tap into that even now because you're connected to it. The reality is that because you've fallen down in terms of your vibration into this physical realm, into this physical world, or you've come back to learn certain things that you didn't learn in your previous incarnation, you're now able to fix and elevate, and then you will get rid of this. When you make that light become, the driving force within you, as opposed to the amber light, the reptilian nature, the disagreeable nature, which the beings that control this world make suggestions constantly to you to bring that side of you to surface, where you don't want to know the truth, you don't want to research, you don't want to do the right things, you want to do all the things that are appealing but are bad for you, like not looking after your health, not working by way of being a more intelligent being, but you just follow, you just, eat bad food, you do bad, recreation, you go to the things that you're drawn towards, the attractions that are not for your best development, okay? So you do have access to those records, and you have to develop to be able to access them fully. Okay, serious question. So this is from Lego King. It's called Serious Question. But what's Wu-Sabat's take on semen retention, spirituality and physically? What can you tell me about the benefits? All right, again, I think there's a video on YouTube called Gateways and Guardians and the Gateways. If you're in the group, we've posted the link in the group, but that goes into this in great detail, because when you're saying semen retention, that is spiritual power and spiritual energy, because remember, that's what you use for procreation and the power to bring about beings, all right? So you need to not use it frivolously or waste it, because it is energy. And it all depends on you at the moment and what you're trying to achieve. You can channel that energy to become mental energy. But we're not saying that you shouldn't have relationships with your mate, with your partner, with somebody that you have a meaningful relationship with, if you're already in a relationship. If you're not, then yes, it's worth retaining that energy for spiritual development. But it's also, you have to look at it from a health point of view as well, that there has to be balance with everything. So, you know, at some point that needs to be released if it's not being channeled properly. So yeah, we're not like monks and nuns where they try to do something where they find difficult to do because, you know, those desires, those urges come, and then, you know, they end up doing things that, like for example, they say they're pious and all holy and they don't have a woman, but then when they have those urges, then they will maybe like sleep with the nuns, or with, you know about, like, it was in the news about, you know, like child abuse and things like that that go on with, it was a big thing in the news recently with, in the Catholic Church and so on. So what we're basically saying is we deal with balance in Wu-Sabat, and yeah, there are benefits to semen retention, but it's not to be taken to the extreme to the point where it can actually cause you health issues. All right. And we have books that obviously deal with, you know, health aspects of Wu-Sabat that you can study. We're coming to the last 7 minutes, so I'm just going to scroll through to see if there are any questions I've missed. I like to come to your podcast and have questions and answers. Okay. We see your details at Love, Juice, Taste, Peace. We can get that set up. I want to join. I want to start my journey. What do you suggest I begin with? Join the Telegram group. Speak to us. We'll give you all the information to come in. Okay, we've got your information to contact you regarding that arrangement to come in and do a one-to-one. What do the negative forces want? They want your energy. They utilize your energy because they feed off of your energy. This is why you're drained sometimes. Because, for example, if you spend your energy and time doing something you don't want to do just for the sake of money and things like that, then that's a waste of your energy. If you're doing disagreeable things that create negative energy, that's a waste of your energy that they feed off of. Remember, everything you're doing is you're outputting, right? So you're either productive or you're being utilized to feed other things. Even if you look at it from the viewpoint of just like working for someone, you're giving your time and your energy to progress them in what they want you to do. So when you say, what do the negative forces want? They literally want to feed off of you, keep you suppressed, keep you under control, to utilize your energies. And when you look at it, ultimately, even when it comes to like the real essence of your soul, they want that. Because again, when you cross over, that's when they can collect your soul. Bobby Jones, thank you so much. Keep the good work up. You remind me of Noble Evans, just with a London accent. Can you explain what the firmament is and where can I send a donation? Again, link with us. Thank you for your kind words. Just doing my best as a student teacher of the master teacher. And to be honest, we're all supposed to be helping to do this work. You know, everyone has something to contribute and to give. Everyone can teach. Just study the information, share what you know. It's got to get out there. So, yeah, it's not just down to me. Sometimes we are so tired because we're working constantly, but it's a noble job. It's something that we have a passion for. There's nothing more honorable than to spread the truth and to teach the works, because, you know, Partner Babianun is incarcerated and has been suffering for us to get this knowledge out. So we're going to do our best with your support. If you join our Telegram group, we can let you know how you can help. You can help by, as we say, sharing the information, joining a community, supporting the legal efforts. It's not always monetary. The most contribution you can make is to utilize your energies, your power, and become, productive and help. Okay. Oh yeah, the firmament. You want to know what the firmament is? Right. Again, this word comes up a lot with the flat earth people. And again, we know that people get caught up in different groups and different teachings, and you have to graduate. So we're not trying to say, we're not putting down anyone who is on their journey and they've got to graduate and learn things to get to Wu-Sabat. But that whole firmament is coming from, when you read the Bible, is talking about how this planet was created. And there are different layers or spheres, right? Different atmospheres and spheres, that are above or around the planet, that people are calling, this is what they're talking to when we're talking about when they say the firmament. Because when you're going up, as I said, flat earth, to me, this is flat. When something is flat, you don't have like the mountains and different structures that make the part you're calling earth flat. The earth is not flat if you're looking at what you're calling earth, because you have mountains and so forth. And then you have what you call seas or the waters, which some of it covers some of the land or what you're calling earth, because when you go underwater, you still find parts you call in earth. Then you have the atmosphere, which is the oxygen that we breathe. And then you have different spheres, the stratosphere and the other ones, I can't remember all their names, but those are what people are referring to. So when you're going up, you're going to look at clouds. We can break down how clouds are formed. But when you go above the clouds, because if you are inside an aeroplane, you will go above the clouds. And when you're looking up, it looks different to what it really is when you go up there. So they say you have a dome. And these domes are these spheres because they are different atmospheres. And, before they had the technology where they could launch a rocket that can break through these spheres, they weren't able to do that, right? So, but now they do have the technology to do that. So this dome or spheres, you talk about the rainbow, because the rainbow gives you a dome. So I'm still trying to figure out, what are you calling flat? Because a dome is not flat. The earth is not flat. Obviously the water has different levels. So yeah, that's what we're talking about when you're talking about the firmament. You're talking about the clouds and the different layers of atmosphere or spheres above the planet, until you break those and come out into what people call space. And the reason I personally don't buy the flat earth is because we have a master teacher that comes from a planet outside of the planet called Risk. And he has been teaching us about this planet. So, how can we say there's nothing outside of this planet or this dome, but yet we have, constellations that are outside? The master teacher comes from somewhere else. He's teaching us about these other places. So I can't subscribe to the flat earth, but that's what the firmament is. One of these days, I think I'm going to do a video just on that, because this question keeps coming up a lot. Let me see if there's anything else. All right, thank you.
Can you just let them know about the Yakub video?
Yeah, so the Yakub's video, because when you speak different languages, your words get twisted when you're speaking English sometimes, like you pronounce things wrong. But the Yakub video is live, is amazing, the amount of views, and we want to obviously promote it, share it. like it, and obviously subscribe. And yeah, I think it's only been out for like less than 24 hours. And okay, 27,000 views in less than 24 hours. That's amazing. Yeah, so we want to give love to everyone who's supporting us. We've run out of time for today. Okay. Oh man, I'm going to touch on that question quickly, Zion. My name is Zion. Wondering if you can go into the history of Mount Zion, who built it, why, and any other historical significance. Ooh, I don't know if you want me to really, because the word Zion ties into Zuen, which is, even though in the biblical sense, in the religious sense, they say it's a mountain of peace, because they say Zion means peace. But when you go into the etymology and really get to know about Wu-Sabat and the doctrine, you're dealing with Zuen and dealing with, you know, this, even though Zion is meant to be the city of peace, and you go into the movie The Matrix and they use that as well. But it's really, again, tying into this being known as Nana, or this disagreeable being. But religion plays tricks on you because it's having you thinking you're doing the right thing or worshipping the right being or dealing with peace. But there's a twist to it, because it's really talking about, you know, this being known as Nana, who is one of the tones is Zion or Zuen. But we've run out of time today for me to go into that in more details. Join our Telegram group, and we can go into that a little bit more. Unfortunately, some of us do have names that we were given from the, you know, because, you know, our parents may have been into a religion or very spiritual, and they'll give you names from the Bible and, you know, the characters of the Bible. But when you come into Wu-Sabat, or when you start to learn about tones and vibrations, you have to look at, you know, the name that you're using, because those tones tie you to different beings that resonate on that vibration and that frequency. That's why we have to get rid of those religious names that we may have received in, like, Islam, Christianity, etc., and take on a name that is more of a resonant vibration that will help you and not have you tied to those tones. Wow, 21:21, the time when we last looked at the clock. Someone says, Wu-Sabat is not the only organization saying these things. Kemetsu say the same things. Hinduism, yeah, because when you go back to the origins, it will go back to Wu-Sabat. The language, the origin of languages come from Misbatia, known as Sabaic. But yes, people can say some of these things, but where's the culture that relates to your race and your people and what you do as you live? So Wu-Sabat is not the only organization saying these things, but Wu-Sabat is that which is here to take us into the next 24,000 years, whether people like it or accept it or not. And it's not even a egotistical thing. Hinduism goes back to the Hindus, and every race practices their culture. The Hindus have a culture and the way they do things. We, as the Negroids or the Africans, we have a culture which is Wu-Sabat, and, you know, other races have their culture. Only those races that vibrate on their frequency, on their language, and do the things that are designed for them will survive. All others are going to fade away. All right. We've got so many questions we didn't get to answer, but tune in next week or join the Telegram group and ask your question that didn't get answered, and we'll do our best to answer your question until next class, which is this Saturday. Again, we post all the information on the Telegram group. We keep pushing the Telegram group because we have a central place where everyone can interact with us and have their questions answered, be notified of any videos coming up, and any, you know, post any links to scrolls, etc., etc. I know sometimes it's exciting, but try not to run before you can walk. So listen twice as much as you talk. Use your eyes twice as much as you talk, because you only have one mouth. You have two ears 2 eyes. All right? Until next time, we want to say Tawakum, wu-wadu. Tawakum means thank you all. Wu is and, wadu is by. Until the next time, ashuk, 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 divine love. Wadu.